Most people have a picture in their heads. They see our ancestors just munching on leaves and roots. A simple life, a simple diet. But that picture is wrong. Survival is never simple. You have to be smart. You have to be adaptable. Let's go back in time. 4.8 million years ago. The world was a different place. Our ancestor Ardipithecus ramidus, living in the woodlands of what is now Ethiopia. The seasons changed. Sometimes food was easy to find, sometimes it was not. To make it through, you needed a strategy. You needed to eat more than just plants. Use your brain, use your hands, use the tiny allies living inside your gut. 3 key pillars. First, insects. Let's get one thing straight. Insects were not a last resort. They were a 5-star meal. They were a core part of the diet. You might turn your nose up at it now, but for our ancestors, insects were life. They are packed with high-quality protein, the kind you need to build muscle and stay strong. They are full of essential fats, giving you the dense energy needed to get through a tough day of foraging. On top of that, they provide critical vitamins and minerals. B12, which you cannot get from plants. Iron, zinc. In a world where food could be scarce, insects were like nature's own power bars. They were a reliable, nutrient-dense superfood. Finding them was the easy part. You do not need to be a great hunter to catch a termite. You do not need to be a great hunter to catch an ant. Termite mounds are everywhere in the African landscape. Ant nests are everywhere in the African landscape. They are stationary targets. They are predictable. Once you find a mound, you have a food source you can return to again and again. It is a living pantry that restocks itself. Our ancestors would have known this. They would have used simple tools, maybe a stick, maybe a piece of bone, to break into these nests and get at the prize inside. The grubs, the eggs, the adults. It was all on the menu. This was not just a snack. This was a dependable source of animal protein that did not fight back. This is what survival is all about. It is about maximum gain for minimum risk. But harvesting insects, that is a safe bet. How do we know all this? We are not just guessing. The clues are written in stone and bone. Scientists are like detectives. They look for the smallest traces of evidence left behind. One of the best places to look is at the teeth of our ancestors. A tooth is like a diary. It records a lifetime of eating. By looking at the microscopic scratches and pits on the surface of an Ardipithecus tooth, we can figure out what they were chewing. Things that crunch. Things like the hard outer shells of beetles or termites. The evidence is not just on the teeth, it is in the ground around them. At archaeological sites where hominin fossils are found, scientists also find the fossilized remains of ancient insect nests. We are talking about termite mounds that have turned to stone over millions of years. Finding these two things together in the same layer of Earth is no coincidence. It tells a story. It shows that our ancestors were living right next to a major food source. Furthermore, we can use advanced chemical analysis on the tooth enamel itself. Isotopes are like chemical fingerprints left behind by the food you eat. The signals we see are consistent with a mixed diet. This is solid scientific proof. Well, now let's talk about the backup plan. In the wild, you always need a backup plan. For our ancestors, that plan was buried right under their feet. We are talking about underground storage organs, or USOs. That is a fancy term for things like tubers, roots, and corms. Think of them as nature's emergency rations. During the wet season, the forest would be full of fruit, young leaves, and flowers. Food was abundant. But when the dry season hit, all of that could disappear. That is when you need to know where to find the hidden food. That is when you turn to the USOs. These underground foods were not a first choice. They take work. A lot of work. You cannot just pick them off a branch. First, you have to know where to look. You need to recognize the plant on the surface that signals a tasty tuber below. That takes knowledge, passed down through generations. Then you have to dig. Our ancestors did not have metal shovels. They used simple tools, a sharpened stick to break the ground, a heavy stone to pound and crack open the tough outer skin. This is the very beginning of technology. It is about using an object to solve a problem. This need to dig and process tough foods probably encouraged cooperation. It is a job that is easier with help. Section 5. The Hidden Helpers. Your gut's secret weapon. There is one more piece to this puzzle. You know, it is a partner you cannot see. It lives inside you. I am talking about your microbiome, bacteria, other microbes. For our early ancestors, this internal ecosystem was a secret weapon. It allowed them to get value from foods that would otherwise be useless. Leaves, Stems, fibrous tubers are full of cellulose. Our bodies cannot break down cellulose on their own. We do not have the right enzymes. But the microbes in our gut, they can. They are masters of fermentation. Here's how it works. When an early hominin ate tough, fibrous plant matter, it traveled down to their large intestine. There, the specialist microbes went to work. They fermented that fiber, breaking it down into something the body could use. The main product of this process is a set of molecules called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs: acetate, propionate, butyrate. The gut lining can absorb these SCFAs directly into the bloodstream. They are a fantastic source of energy. In essence, our ancestors had a built-in bioreactor that turned low-quality plant roughage into high-quality fuel. This gave them a huge survival advantage. Section 6. The 3 pillars of our past. So let's bring it all together. The old, simple story of our ancestors just eating plants is dead and buried. The real story is one of incredible ingenuity and flexibility. It is a story built on 3 pillars of survival. The first pillar was insects. They were not just pests. They were a predictable and vital source of protein, fat, essential nutrients. The second pillar was the underground world of tubers, roots. These were the emergency rations, the fallback plan for when the easy food ran out. The third and final pillar was the invisible world within, the gut microbiome. This army of tiny allies was the secret to unlocking the full potential of the environment. Picture a master survivor, an ultimate opportunist, using every tool and every resource available. That is our real story.